Hello, my name is Benny and I like hanging out in the garage. This week, we're trying to charge a cell phone off a Stirling engine, and we also make a steampunk themed charging station for the nightstand. For a while now, I've seen these little steam engines online, and I'm thinking, that'd be a great little project. So I finally break down and got one. First thing I learned is they're not steam engines, they're Stirling engines. There's a few key differences. They both use an outside heat source, but a Stirling engine just uses hot air. There's no water, there's no steam. It's just the air pressure moving the piston back and forth that gives you your power. That's lesson number one. All right, this is the one I got. Stirling Engine, Master of Science. Just to be cool. Typically, anything you do just to be cool isn't cool. Amazing toy, wonderful gift, table decoration, science learning. It's by Sunny Tech. There you go. It does come with these little LED lights. It comes with some spare little glass tubes that go over the cylinders. It comes with these little jars and wicks for the candle flame to heat it up. This looks like a spare cover for the little top cylinder part. I don't know if that's an exhaust cylinder or just a little pressure equalization tube thing. Either way, we got all our parts together. There's some instructions. London pastor Robert Stirling Forrest invented in 1816, so named Stirling Engine. Stirling heat engine is unique because of their theoretical efficiency is almost equal to the theoretical maximum efficiency known as the Carnot cycle efficiency. Wow, this is deep stuff. Stirling engine is heated by gas expansion, contraction, and cold produce power. I don't think this was written in this language. This is an external combustion engine, the fuel to burn continuously expanding the air as the media, so the piston movement expansion of gas cooling in the cold chamber repeatedly for this cycle. Okay, so this is the Stirling engine. It has a piston, it's got the candle jar that sits underneath it here. It pushes to a rod in the back that turns this wheel. The wheel's connected by a belt down to this little motor right here, which we'll get into later. Now, I'm using alcohol as the fuel for this. One, I think it burns slightly hotter than a couple other choices that I have. Also, it burns really clean. It doesn't leave a black, sooty finish on anything. It certainly burns cleaner than like paraffin lamp oil or anything like that. It's going to burn hotter than a tea candle. It doesn't smell like sterno would. It's just what I got and what I'm using. To get it going, you just light it. I'm supposed to give it a few seconds, probably to heat up really well. All right, let's try it. Look at that! Success! That is fantastic! Boy, it starts to rev up a little bit too. Look at that go. Alright, so that's a running Stirling engine. We're halfway there. So we get it going, and the motor has these two little tabs. Let's measure the output of the motor. Right now the engine's running pretty good. 5.5 volts is perfect for a USB. It's exactly what you want to charge stuff. So this little board, it has a name. I can't remember it right now. What it does is it steps down voltage. So you can input up to a certain amount of voltage, but you can regulate the output. So it's constant and consistent going to whatever it is you're charging. And you can set the output voltage, and you can also limit the amps. So this is going to help protect anything we plug into it from the power surges put out by the Stirling engine. So according to this, we're putting out 5.5 volts at 0.01 amps. So what you're looking at here is me trying to dial in the voltage regulator and get the phone to charge. Every time I plug it in, it beeps for a second like it's charging, and then the drag on the motor slows it down, and the phone says, I'm not working with this accessory, and then you got to start all over. I got kind of deep into this and I didn't film it real well. Sorry about that. I'll make it up to you later with a cool shot of some sparks or something. Just off this one little LED, you can hear the difference and that's drag that the amp draw puts on this little motor that in turn slows down the whole engine. So I printed up some different size pulleys that fit on the shaft of the motor. This way we can tweak the speed it's turning and get a little bit more power out of it from the motor. See, what happens is with that load on the motor, now it's pulling back against the Stirling engine, all right? So the Stirling engine is pulling on that little pulley to move the electric motor, the generator, and if you make the pulley too small so that the generator goes faster, then when there's load on it, the Stirling engine, which doesn't have that much power, doesn't have enough leverage, torque, to keep pulling the motor. So it's a balance. You want the final pulley as small as possible to get the most RPMs out of that little motor, but large enough that the Stirling engine can still turn it while it's under load. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So now that we've got it going faster, you can see that it's putting out almost 6.5 volts. So now that's good, and we can dial down the output, and that's going to be really consistent. Now we can charge some things easily. Like this Bluetooth speaker only draws like half an amp. And there's no real spike when you first plug it in to slow down the motor too much. I will say, I think the display on this card, I think the decimal is in the wrong spot because I don't think anything's working on 0.05 of an amp. I think that's half an amp, but I don't know. So what happens when we first plug in the cell phone is there is a spike, and it goes up to about 0.9 amps before the motor slows down enough to where the cell phone says, I ain't working with this. I think an actual cell phone charger is rated at like 2.2 amps, so that's a bit of a stretch from where we are. So we are a little limited on the amount of power the Stirling engine puts out. That's kind of our cap. But we can change other things. Like I said, we can change the gearing with the pulleys a little bit. We can also try changing out the motor. I got a couple other little hobby motors that may or may not have more resistance to them. I've got some 3 to 6 volt little motors. I've got a 12 volt motor. I've got a couple different things. Some of them, the bigger ones, the Stirling engine just doesn't have the power to turn in any way. They're just not working. We'll compare some of the smaller motors and we'll see what we can get out of it. Turns out the motor that came with this is really right there with anything else I could come up with. So with the right gearing, this is the maximum efficiency we're going to be able to get out of this motor. Okay, so out of frustration, I thought, hey, you know what? Someone else has to have tried this by now, right? So I went to YouTube. There's a few videos out there. There's a couple where there's these big engines. One of them's water cooled. They're doing different stuff with them. Those, they look great. There are a couple videos out there where the people have these small hobby ones, the same as me. There's one even where the guy's got the same little card, okay? You watch and he goes, oh yeah, you start it, here you go. He shows him plugging in his phone and goes, whoop, bink, oh look, it's charging. And it's right next to the engine, and the amp draw and the RPMs don't even change. So on that video, I'm calling shenanigans. Shenanigans! He plugged it into a wall charger and wants you to think he's charging it off the Stirling engine. But as we now know, there's no draw on the motor in that video. I'm not going to say the video specifically. I don't want to start a YouTube war with anybody, but I call shenanigans. Shenanigans! The other video I'm calling shenanigans on is a guy does the same thing. He has it, he plugs it in, but he's got like a 15-year-old phone. He's got like an old BlackBerry that he plugs in. He goes, look, you're charging your phone. Yeah, you're charging your BlackBerry. The trolley draws like 0.1 amps or something. That's not a modern smartphone. That's not what we're trying to do. So there you go. Shenanigans! All right, well, we've tried gearing, we've tried motors. I held the torch up to get it as hot as I could to increase the RPM. Still can't get it to consistently charge the smartphone. So I think what I'm gonna do is get a different motor. Because if you're disappointed with the product from a company, the best thing to do is to just go buy more from that company. Now this is a slightly larger Stirling engine. It's got 2 cylinders, and what I'm hoping is that it has twice the power and won't slow down when we put the load on it as much as this little single cylinder dealio. Ooh, there's a 4-cylinder model. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The 2 cylinders on this one are independent, and then they belt drive down to a single axle that drives the single little generator motor. So here's our first one, here's the second one. There's 2 cylinders, and they're also much bigger, okay? That should give us more power, except that being larger, having to heat up more air for each stroke, you don't get the RPM out of this one that you do with this one. This one runs much slower over here. That's giving us less voltage at the motor. So on one hand, we have more consistent power. On the other hand, we're kind of back to square one, trying to get a higher voltage out of the motor. A little bit of gearing, a little bit of playing around, a little bit of testing. We'll get there. Okay, so we did it. We're getting the smartphone to charge off of this Stirling engine. We're barely putting out 5 volts. It's going at half an amp or 0.05 if this is correct, whatever. But the main thing that's happening is surge that happens when you first plug in the phone. The 2 cylinders on this larger Stirling engine has enough power to go past that, let the phone start charging without the motor slowing down too much. Well, we did it! Yay! Technically, we did it. We got the phone to charge. It's still not the greatest thing. If you think, hey, I'm going to make a phone charger out of a Stirling engine, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to come home, light a candle, plug in your phone, and then go do something for a while and your phone's going to be charged. It's going to take way too long. It's super inefficient. You only get about 10 minutes out of the little jar of fuel, and then you got to refill it. So you'd be doing that over and over and over again. I feel like I accomplished my goal. I wanted to see if we could do it, and we did it. We see how you can do it, and now you know how and why it wouldn't work. But I still want to make a little charging station, something for my phone, my watch, my earpieces, something maybe with the Stirling engine in there so it looks cool, but it's going to plug into the wall so I can just charge everything like normal. We'll try and make it look nifty.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. You always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. they'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. Although you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's...
What can we use? What can we use?
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up, really gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, some good, some food in you. Step 3, grow hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your paint can. Shake your paint can. Little thing on safety. If you're going to try drilling out some vacuum tubes, a few things you need to remember. One, they are under a vacuum, so when you chip through them, if you break the glass, they will implode. You can cut yourself. Secondly, there are chemicals in there. I can't remember the name of some of the more common chemicals. You don't want to breathe them. You don't want a whole bunch of contact with them. If you drill in that silver paint that's in the tip, I can't remember the name of it, but that's actually a thing that absorbs gas. It's what makes it a vacuum, right? So when you drill in, you're going to come back in a day and it's all going to be white powder because it's used up from all the oxygen. If you take an airline and try to blow all that powder out, you're just blowing it into the air. And I don't know how good for you it is. Nobody does. Somebody does. Take precautions. Wear precautionary things. Do your research. Also, drilling in the bottom of the little plastic on the bottom, that's Bakelite. These are anyway, because they're from the 60s. Bakelite is an earlier plastic, but it's infused with other things to give it strength. Sometimes it's infused with things like asbestos. You don't want to breathe that dust or the smoke coming off of that if you're grinding through it. There you go. What can we use? What can we use? Ta-da! And there we go. I think it turned out great. Phone sits here. The watch charger's going to sit right here. A little earpiece thing right there. I can still run the Stirling engine if I want to, if I'm showing it off. I think the vacuum tube lights turned out great. The whole thing, it's going to sit perfectly on the nightstand next to a little lamp that I made out of a gear a couple years ago. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I had a great time these past couple weeks doing this. It's a great example of just hanging out in the garage. We started out with a simple little project, may or may not have worked. It turned into making a whole thing. We learned a couple things in the process. A few things, the vacuum tube lights, I think turned out great. I want to do some more stuff in the future where I get some more of these and figure out stuff to do with them because I think they look super cool. They really do. I don't think the camera does them justice. The rest of it was cool, just making this out of stuff in the garage. This is a flywheel off of some sort of Lexus. These are clutch discs from the Victory. This was some old, it was an audio wire or maybe just, I don't know, some multi-strand power wire. There you go. Thanks, Uncle Benny's Garage. We use junk. Uncle Benny's Garage, making something out of nothing. Uncle Benny's Garage, we know just enough to be dangerous. Shenanigans!